and those selfie-taking crowds may step on them, it will not matter. For we have left our mark, bringing forests to life, feeling our breath in the breeze. We have moved mountains, though the secret is ours, and no one else will know. Thank you.
Thank you. That was fabulous as usual. I mean, Menka and I go a long way. I remember my first poetry reading was actually at her house. She has a fabulous house with a lawn, and that was nearly 2 decades ago.
I didn't
And
realize that was your first reading, Ramesh.
and then we've had a lot of interactions over the way. You know, she wears so many hats. She's also a journalist. She runs a content management company. It's been a very happy association. And she was this morning telling me to cut her bio a little short because she was a little embarrassed that it was too much. But yeah, I would be jealous of a bio like that. So I put the whole thing in, like, miles to go before I sleep.
Thank you, Ramesh. That's very sweet.
Thank you. So, David, are you ready now?
Yes, I think I can go ahead now.
Right, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And it's nice to remember the time that I lived in India, which was basically 2007 to 2009. I had basically turned 50 around that time, and I thought it was high time that I have a midlife crisis and try something new in my life. And so I tried to live longer in India, but I wasn't able. But I won't tell you more of the story. I've selected possibly 3 poems. Ramesh, can you kind of be a time? Let's see, what time is it now? Anyway, if you can be a timekeeper and just let me know how I'm doing with the time after each poem, that would be great. The first is short. It's, I think, the only poem I've written called Autumn, and it's a haiku, which I wrote, in fact, in 2005 in Washington, D.C. They call this autumn. Everything receives a name. Dying has nuance. I'll repeat that. They call this autumn. Everything receives a name. Dying has nuance. Can you hear me well? Okay, I'll assume so. Then the second poem is 1 page, and it's called My Matthews Dictionary. And it kind of correlates with the beginning of the serious pandemic period. Now that I've got at hand my Matthews Dictionary and a magnifying glass, and have no more office work, no metro to downtown LA for 37.5 hours in a dependable weekly cycle, now that I'm presto, a proverbial man of leisure, I ordered and unpacked an old used Matthews Chinese English dictionary issued by Harvard U Press. The sober, weighty tome, an essential mainstay of those long vanished days, autodidactically hunched over white sheets of paper, whereon I'd inscribed black lines in classical Chinese, habitually deciphered on panoramic way, till fatefully I sold my piano and with the lucre bought an LP player, and so, presto, was equipped to become a music reviewer, flying from tongue-dyed texts into all-Quran meetings with Phil Glass and Meredith Monk and Ali Akbar Khan, pulling me mean-like from Walnut Creek to NYC in the late 1980s, time ever more flowing, myriad books then tossed out, including the Matthews, by a kid who'd moved into the panoramic way A-frame, who misconstrued my old landlady, thinking it quite okay to throw away the meager belongings that I'd stowed in the storage shed I'd built on her property, including letters from Mehra and Mani and Mershidadus and God knows what all else, a beginning of losings of precious things. Later in LA, back from India, back from study of Drupad at Gurukul, at rounds of the bend, at turns of the screw in financial straits, I lost hold on items sequestered in storage. This mishappened twice in LA, including manuscripts of poetry in my 30s I'd submitted to the august Yale series of younger poets, one entitled Orison, and the second named A Bowl of China, the two volumes having apparently now vanished from this world. Speaking of China, now that I've got my Matthews again, after 30 plus years and a decent magnifying glass as well, shall I resume dithering over lines from antique poets, often unknown to my companions and unheeded in this era? Ni-Zan, orchid ink painter of the Yuan, and Huang Jingren, whose verses I loved and sought to salvage in gone years on panoramic way amid frog song in my oblivious 20s. I've returned to oblivion and can peer anew at its texts. So that's the second poem. How are we on time? Is it already what, like 5 out of 10 minutes or something? Can you hear me? Ramesh? Hello?
Yes, we're doing fine. You can read for another 4 minutes.
Oh, okay, 4 minutes. So I was going to read a really long poem, but there's not really time for that. So let me think 1 second and just fetch something else instead. And so I have these manuscripts in front of me, and this is almost random. I think I'll just pick something. This is, I've experimented with the sestina form. So this is a sestina, and I just really literally picked it at random. But I wrote this just like about 1.5 years ago. It's called Who is in Truth the Doer? The universe is performative. The unmanifest is obscure. If culture is broadly normative, yet who is in truth the doer? If love is the final affirmative, is hope the dramatic lure? Is hope the dramatic lure? Is the room itself performative? Is dance always affirmative? Can questions reach the obscure? The Gita expounds how the doer is the Lord whose will is normative. Is the Lord whose will is normative in himself subject to lure, allowing that he is the doer, whatever's seen is performative. What we can't see stays obscure. Faith traffics in the affirmative. Faith traffics in the affirmative and renders the unseen normative. There's always some realm obscure whose glimpse acts as soul's lure. Even thought is rather performative, where the thinker acts as the doer. Where the thinker acts as the doer? If we answer in the affirmative, as an exercise in the performative, that would render thinking normative. Is this simply a cognitive lure? Does it take stock of the obscure? Does it take stock of the obscure? Well, Maya obscures the doer. If the universe is God's lure, is this negative or affirmative? Is Buddhistic emptiness normative? Is all questioning performative? Is all questioning performative? Is ironic obscurity normative? Is the doer, the lure, affirmative? So that's the sestina. You might know the form. It's very rigorous. You in the first stanza you set out six. The ending word of each line. There are 6 lines in a stanza. Is then repeated in every stanza in a different position in a certain pattern. So, thank you. I've probably used my time. This was fun. Are you there?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Is that probably the end of my time?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's difficult not to hyperventilate seeing some of my heroes on the screen together. They're heroes from different walks of life. So we will move on to Mustansir Dalvi. When I was a college student, it was actually one of my goals in life to meet him at least once in life. I was in complete awe of his poetry. I still am in awe of his poetry. The only difference is that my goal has been met again and again and again and again today. So Mustansir, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. That was an introduction that is making me blush, if you can see me. But thank you very much for the kind words. I'm so happy to make your acquaintance and be a participant with you in all sorts of enterprises. And thank you for inviting me to read poems today. I will begin with a poem called Tamazip. Tamazip is the language of a community formerly given the very derogatory name the Berber, who are found in now very dwindling number all over northern Africa. And the reason why I wrote this poem is because their language is now one that is bordering on extinction. And that is, in fact, the theme of the poem. So let me just read the Tamazip. Sand is no longer captured by the litham covering our faces. The cloth remains unsullied as if never used. We wander the Maghreb, speak, and are misunderstood in towns other than our own. Our mouths forever dry. What would it be like if I spoke only to myself? What could I say? What sense would I make? My mind empties like one half of an hourglass, dripping obstinately into the other, that is the Sahara. My throat is serrated with desire. I want to tell you of the Fezan, of its wadis, of its waters sweet as date, of the tattoos that make our women. You meet me halfway in your voice. Every greeting, every civility mediated by the monoglossia of your drunken world. Just give me a second. Here is a short poem called Sparrows, which is 7 link. It is essentially 7 lines, a really short one. Sparrow. The sparrows have returned to mark my window sill with familiarity, keep peeping and poop. They were pests when I was a child. My mother cursed, kept curtains drawn, covered her ears to drown them out. Welcome home, harbingers of the end of time. Uh, this is a poem I wrote last year when the news was filled with the the happenings in the Ukraine, and very interestingly uh, made all sorts of rather funny associations for me. And I wrote this poem, slightly facetious, but not entirely so. A poem which is called Bhel Puri with Pupil. Bhel Puri with Pupil. I am subject to a swift up down up from his minders, who then let me be, neither newspaper cone nor supapuri deemed a lethal weapon. He eyes possibilities east to west. The Bhel Puri wala reads the Vito Corleone finger pointing accurately, gathers up his favorites, and gives them a hearty shake. His choice is dry, puffed rice ruffles in the hot wind that blows in deference from across the street, from the Crawford Market past PK Wines to the stall next to the mochi shop. I recognize him in an Augenblick, but I am too old to react. The balding, azure-eyed man could be just another day tripper in this quarter of a town full of people from out of it. He eats with a dainty touch. Food moves to mouth and further south with hardly a hint of sound, while I scarf down my ragda patties, stomping like a cow. My presence is acknowledged like a new ambassador presented across a long table. My bad oral manners noticed, but he continues to demolish his bhelpuri in silence. We stand mano a mano on the turning to Bobita now, eyeball to eyeball like a standoff in a spaghetti western. My weapon of choice, the puri, is a square of cardboard, half yellow, half blue, cut out of an old Cosmo or Vogue, stiff enough, stiff enough to keep kurmura, save, dal, and peanuts in entente. Nothing spills, no one talks, time stands still. Perhaps I'll dream of him tonight, spot him eating bhel in his sky blue encaustic polo neck and beige chino, and perhaps in my dream I will ask him about his latest acquisitions, this country or that region, or maybe ways to counter NATO or stymie the EU, or strategies to suppress dissent internally. And maybe I will try to convert him to ragda patties, to its wet, gooey umaminess, instead of the dry chakna he seems to prefer. Perhaps that would make him a happier person, like the rest of Bombay after they've had their mandatory 4 round of Pani Puri. Uh, I'll read a poem which is very new. It was written as a memorial to Jayanta Mahapatra, who passed recently. I remember him with fondness, although I haven't met him too often. I have had the privilege of reading poetry with him more than a couple of times and have always been struck by his gentleness, uh, both as a person as well as when you read his poems. Uh, he was also very kind to write an appreciation for my book of poems, Politician, which his lines can be seen on the back cover. This is a poem in his memory called The Peace of the Moon, Peace, The Peace of the Moon, remembering Jayanta Mahapatra. Time rolls down the arc of Sliver City, a roller coaster recorded in slow motion, first waning as if seeking demise, but then reprieve, rising up to the firmament and beyond. Your years allowed you to repeat this oscillation you called existence, swinging from arc point to arc point in quiet certitude. You wrote of a body recognizing change as the oscillation shortened. Gravity is gradual and seduces to an eventuality halfway between the heart and the breath. Accept with gratitude the peace of the moon, that forever space that satiates like a baby rocking to a quiet lullaby, wrapped snugly in a cloth cradle, suspended between the banks of the Kotha Jodi and the Mahanadi. And I will read this last poem, which Ramesh has especially asked me to, which is not in English, but in Hindi, and was written on the occasion of uh, World Hindi Day earlier uh, this month, I think. And because the reason for writing it is to present a point or to make a point that not only are there different types, but there different languages in our country, that one need not be privileged over the other, but also the fact that there are different types of Hindi and one need not be privileged over the other. This is, of course, written in the Hindi I speak, and I assume that Ramesh speaks as well, which is the kind of Hindi we speak when we are on the streets of Bombay. The title of this poem is माँ की भाषा. आज जब मैं काम पे पहुंचा तो मेरे को बोला कि आज हिंदी दिवस है, तो मेरे को बहुत खुशी हुई और मैं सबको हैप्पी हिंदी डे विश करने लगा. सब लोग मेरे को ऐसे देखने लगे जैसे कि मैं अलीबाग से आएला, हिंदी बोल साले. तो मैं और क्या बोल रहा था, अभी तो मेरे को मेरी माँ की भाषा सिखाएगा, मैं क्या मद्रासी बोल रहा था, तू मेरे को हिंदी सिखाएगा तो मैं तेरे कान के नीचे बजाएगा. आजादी सबको मांगता है, तो तेरी बोल मैं मेरी बोली. Thanks so much, Ramesh, for inviting me to read here.
Thank you so much. That really perked up spirits. Hindi Day is a special day of torture for me. I grew up in the north as a South Indian. It's one of those little annoyments that make life what it is. So thank you so much. And now we will move on to Professor Anura Manatunga. I know him in an archaeological context. He was the Director General of Archaeology in Sri Lanka. until very recently, and he is a professor of archaeology, and I've known him in that capacity for a few years. It's not a very, I came to know that he also is a established Sinhala poet, and that he has written 4 books of poetry in Sinhala. So I thought I will present you this. He is known to the Institution Trust very well, but this face of his is something I wish to present to the world today. Professor Manatunga. Can you hear us, sir? You had the exact opposite of what I intended. So while he rejoins, shall we move on to the next poet? And yes. Hello. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay.
Shall I read, sir, Professor Manatunga, sir?
You can. Okay.
Okay.
No?
You have to tell them.
We are not able to hear you, sir.
Shall I talk in Hindi? Shall I talk in Hindi? प्रोफेसर मानुतुंग की कविताएं मैंने हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट किया है. सिंगली जो कविताएं 2 कविताएं हैं मैंने हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट की है. हाँ, आवाज आती है मेरी?
जी
हाँ, वो कैलनिया विश्वविद्यालय के हिंदी डिपार्टमेंट की वरिष्ठ प्रवक्ता हूँ मैं.
वंडरफुल.
हाँ, हिंदी पढ़ाती हूँ यहाँ, और उनकी कविताएं वो अक्सर हिंदी में अनुवाद करती रहती हूँ मैं. भविष्य में एक कविता की पुस्तक, उनकी कविताओं की पुस्तक छपवाने की इच्छा में भी है, और 2 कविताएं हाल ही में उन्होंने जो सिंगली में लिखी है उनकी अनुवाद, हिंदी की अनुवाद अब मैं पढ़ूंगी. ठीक. चांद के बारे में, मेरा चांद करके चांद के बारे में एक कविता है. मैं जब छोटा था, जब चांद सोने की थाली थी. मैं जब छोटा था, जब चांद सोने की थाली थी, जिसमें खरगोश भी बड़ा प्यारा सा दिखाई दिया. जिसमें खरगोश भी बड़ा प्यारा सा दिखाई दिया. यौवन के चांद की ओर मैंने बस वैज्ञानिक दृष्टि से देखा. यौवन के चांद की ओर मैंने बस वैज्ञानिक दृष्टि से देखा. धब्बे के अलावा उसमें कुछ भी गीलापन नहीं था. धब्बे के अलावा उसमें कुछ भी गीलापन नहीं था. बुढ़ापे में मैंने अपने चांद को ढूंढा। बुढ़ापे में मैंने अपने चांद को ढूंढा। तब देखा राहु के द्वारा निगल तो गया था। जब देखा राहु के द्वारा निगल तो गया था, फिर भी मंडली में चमक धमक पूरी तरह रह गया था। मंडली में चमक धमक पूरी तरह रह गया था। बस वो एक कविता है। और गुस्सा शीर्षक और भी कविता है। गुस्सा। आवाज आती है क्या?
यस मैम।
हाँ। यदि किसी छोटे को गुस्सा आ जाए तो गलती उसकी हो जाती है। यदि किसी छोटे को गुस्सा आ जाए तो गलती उसकी हो जाती है, क्योंकि उसने अपने को थोड़ा संभाला नहीं इसलिए। क्योंकि उसने अपने को थोड़ा संभाला नहीं इसलिए। यदि किसी बड़े को किसी कारण गुस्सा आ जाए तो, यदि किसी बड़े को किसी कारण गुस्सा आ जाए तो गलती तुम लोगों की है। गलती तुम लोगों की है, क्योंकि तुम लोग उस महान के गुस्से का कारण बन बैठे हैं। क्योंकि तुम लोग उस महान के गुस्से का कारण बन बैठे हैं। बस। हाँ, finished.
Thank you. That was nice.
Ramesh, so I think I myself can't read those things, and if you can please recite my poem in English, the poem I have sent to you, and then the title of that poem is Scale. So can you find it now? I sent it in the morning.
And you emailed it to me.
Now I am not in a position. I am in the hospital actually.
I understand. Oh dear.
Yeah. I came to see a friend of mine, and I'm in the hospital now actually.
Yes, so I'll read out your poem.
Yeah, please read it out. And thanks Anusha, because he is going to translate my poems into Hindi and make a Hindi book. So there's so kind of.
All right.
And it's heavy rain here in Sri Lanka, and you will be disturbed from time to time.
Ghamasan Varsha.
Yes. All right.
It's heavy rain here. Well, thank you, Anusha. Thank you for helping.
Okay, welcome, sir.
Okay, so this is his poem translated from the Sinhala into English. It's called The Scale. Tall I am, they say, measuring from their scale. Short I am, say the others, measuring from their scale. I myself measured my height with the scale of my own. I found the sky was above me, only the earth was below me. I found the sky was above me, only the earth was below me. So that was his poem translated into English.
Yes, by Dr. Varuni Tenoko. She is also a lecturer in English at the Buddhist and Pali University. She translated into the Amaravati Poem Festival in 2017. Thank you very much, Ramesh. And Anusha, both of you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we will move on to Silika. She has been a student of the InstaSend programs for a long time. And we discovered that she writes poems. So, Silika, the stage is now yours.
Thank you, sir. I will share my screen, and if it's possible for me to share the screen, because I think it's disabled for me.
1 second.
Yeah.
You should be able to do it now?
Yeah, I think I can. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Since I'm a teacher, my poem always revolves around teaching and the students. So this was about Chandrayaan and Chandrayaan 3, an achievement for me. What did I do? Did I boast for the last 2? So I kept calm. One day, the boys started a sweet argument. Science versus commerce was in their firmament. S opined, "It is such a lovely feeling. I am elated." C asked, "Why? What did you do?" "Simply feeling floated." S stated, "Bro, you don't know. This is an innovation, a time to know moon." C contradicted, "I want a job on Earth, not in moon." C asked, "Is it fair to invest money when the country needs many?" S said, "It is a research. We will know moon more." C rebuked, "What will I do by knowing moon more? How will it solve my survival, which will be ×4? S said politely, "We will know about existence of water, about elements, and maybe we can travel one day to moon." C added shockingly, "Water? Now go all over the moon to fetch? What about the ones which have to be saved here? Are we saving it? And elements? What am I going to do with them? Will it provide food? How much would I have to pay to buy one? Why would I travel to moon? I need a space here on Earth, in India, anywhere in India. Will you provide me?" The bell rang and the argument of S and C died. While I shied, the autumn has arrived. Another poem which I feel I should be dedicating it to 2020, the Corona times. We have always taken it in a very negative manner. So this is one which I feel should be respected for what it has done to us. So this is 2020 and 2021. 20 told 20, "I would like to remain here." 20 told 20, "We lived as a century. Why crave for one more year?" 20 told 20, "I want to set things right. People want to forget me quiet." 20 told 20, "Who said you will be forgotten? You are forever right. Man will follow certain rules, wash hands before eating, stop nonsense before uttering. God in believing, humanity in showing, online in teaching." 20 told 20, "Fine, I hand the baton to 21. Be careful. Let no one curse me. Let no one force me. Cumbersome is whack. I came, I quit. Don't know what whack has in it. Immunity or mutiny." That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Silika. It's always amazing how a school argument can be ended by the bell.
Yeah. That's the only way I could do that.
I remember absolutely heated arguments completely dissolving when the bell rang because we just picked up our bags and ran, the first way out of the classroom.
Very true.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
So our next poet is Baisali, another hero of mine. She used to be editor of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and I remember submitting for it and hoping that she would accept it. And it started with that editor-contributor relationship, and it's ever since then we've been on and off interacting. So the floor is yours, Baisali.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. It might have started with the editor and hopeful writer relationship. But then it went on to you being my haiku mentor and bringing me into this wonderful world of haiku, where I am so deeply and firmly entrenched now. So
Thank
the
you so
tables
much.
have beautifully turned. So because I know the theme says August, I've tried for Bengalis all over the world. August means Durga Puja, because Durga Puja is around the corner. So this is a poem that I wrote to Durga, and it's I hope you like it. It's called In Thy Holy Name. So I thought I'd start off my autumn poetry with a poem to the Mother Goddess. In Thy Holy Name. Aparna, Vaishnavi, Parameshwari, Narayani, Tejashwini, Ratnapriya, Shundari, Durga. These are all your names. These plus 100 more just for you. And then there's 108 each for your daughters, Lokhi and Saraswati. And of course, 108 more for your soul sister, Kali. That's 432 names between the four of you. And I'm sure you multiply that into tens, hundreds, thousands, lakhs and lakhs and lakhs, and you still won't near the end of the list of names of the missing girls, the vanished, the silenced, the raped, the murdered, the unborn, dead before arrival, expired before due date. In a land where our Devis are beautiful, put on pedestals and adorned with flowers, incense, folded hands, secret desires, and whispered promises, I read about fetuses scraped out from bleeding wombs. Why? Because of the Y missing from our genetic makeup. We are cursed with an extra X, and now I understand why an X equals wrong. I watch the news as story after story after story talks about yet another young girl whose body has been broken, head smashed, vagina in possession of things that have no business being there. Rocks, broken bottles, and iron rods. Often these broken, bloody bodies would have been too young to bleed on their own. Then there are the timeless tales of young lives gone up in a blaze of insults and kerosene, or hanging naked from fans and trees by the very garment that is supposed to shield their modesty, or simply hacked down in the middle of a field and hastily returned to earth. And if that's not all, then there's the searing pain of our faces melting, our flesh hanging off our bones as the acid of a love affair turned rank, or a family dispute gone manic brands us for all the world to see. We're fighting. We're fighting, we're fighting, we're fighting so hard, but the battle is long and never ending. Fighting off the slings of their doubts and aspersions, fighting off their machismo fighting off the slings of their doubts and aspersions, fighting off their machismo to our blatant aversion, fighting off their snake-like arms as they grab and grope, fighting them off as they choke and they poke. We're fighting. And each time we raise our voices to tell our truths and sing our songs and share our stories, our names are dragged through the sewer. Oh Durga, Ma Durga, Durga Devi, Devi Ma, more often than not, we are named after you, your daughters and your sister gods. But our divinity-laden name tags are not enough to shield us from the evil eye and other unwelcome body parts. 108 names. Vishnu Maya, Dev Mata, Sharbodano Ghatini, Chandamunda Binashini, Mahishashu Murdini, Durga Devi, Devi Durga, 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 Durga Ma, bearer of 108 exquisite names. Tell me, do you have a favorite? One that you like best because of the way it dances in your ears. One that you respond to quicker, that'll reach you faster like an emergency hotline service. Tell me, Devi, and I promise my sisters and I will not use it in vain or wear it out without sense or purpose, or wring it dry of need and meaning. Gift us your name in a shatterproof box, axe attached with a little note for emergency purposes only. And if you can't, give us your blessings instead when we come knocking on your door, battle-stained and weary, and welcome us like one warrior would another. So I do tend to write rather long poems or performance poems because I perform at my, in different poetry sessions over here. So I promise the next few are very short. I don't write often in rhyme. If I do, they're normally for children's plays or entertainment purposes, but this is one of the few that I have written in rhyme. It's called Earth. And again, harvest, August, autumn, so Earth. Roses and tulips, banyan and pine, rice and wheat, parsley and thyme, apples and mangoes, passion fruit too, potatoes and carrots, sugarcane and bamboo. How many times and in how many ways must Earth split her skin to show us her love in full blaze? And I would like to end with 2 haiku. Okay, and again, related to autumn, or rather, since autumn signifies change, and right now, this wonderful website called the Haiku Foundation, their theme at the moment is times of transition. So I'd like to read 2 of my offerings over there. The first one. Broken chrysalis, bags of outgrown clothes to be given away. Broken chrysalis, bags of outgrown clothes to be given away. The other one, premature grays, hoping I don't inherit dad's diabetes too. Premature grays, hoping I don't inherit dad's diabetes too. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Those were very lovely. Thank you so much. Haiku has a very special place for me, and I'm happy you've taken to it. I'm like, one of those evangelical fellows who are happy somebody follows in my path. Now, we'll move on to Dr. Milind Watve. I have known him as my professor of microbiology and of evolutionary biology and various other things. But he is also a very, very accomplished poet. He writes ghazals and other forms in Marathi and Hindi and Urdu. And again, I wanted to bring out that side of Dr. Watve today. So over to you, sir.
Yeah. I presume you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
I think I should begin with a note of apology that I'm not really familiar with modern poetry. My childhood was rich in poetry. My father being in music, he was a composer, and so many poets and lyricists used to visit us, including the famous ones in Marathi like Suresh Bhatt or Sudhir Mokhi and others. After that, I drifted into an entirely different career, and my ties with this is a story of 1970s. From 1980s, I actually drifted away from the field of poetry, but kept writing for myself. I write in Marathi, Hindi, Urdu. I won't say I write in English, but maybe for a change, towards the end, if there is time, I might recite a couple of English 4-liners. So let me begin with Marathi. Those of you who may not understand Marathi might still appreciate the flow and rhyme and rhythm. काळ्या शारडोही पाणी नाही डचमळले काळ्या शार डोही पाणी नाही डचमळले, नाही पिंपळाचे पाने कसळ सळले, कोणी नाही कोणाच्याही कानी कुजबुजले, गोऱ्या पावलांना चकव्याने बहकविले, गोऱ्या पावलांना चकव्याने बहकविले. थोड्या अंधारात रातव्याचे चकचकणे, कधी तेजाळत काजव्याचे लकलकणे, वाट चकाकत धुसरत वळवळते, तुझ्या काळजात काहीतरी तळमळते, तुझ्या काळजात काहीतरी तळमळते. लाल रेघ तेथे दूरवर हुरहुरली, लाल रेघ तेथे दूरवर हुरहुरली, अन सागातळी पानगळ चुरचुरली, तुझ्या घागरीत ओसंडून भरले ऋतू, किती शोधशील मला गडी दूर दूर तू, किती शोधशील मला गडी दूर दूर तू. रान गारव्याचे एक बोट शिर शिरले, रान गारव्याचे एक बोट शिर शिरले, एक पाते तुझ्या पावलात थर थरले, वाट अडवून वेल एक लवलवती, तुला कळे नाही माझे बाहू तुझ भवती, तुला कळे नाही माझे बाहू तुझ भवती. तुझी सय माझ्या रानभर थय थयली, तुझी सय माझ्या रानभर थय थयली, जिने संपले तरीही त्याची लय भिनली, तुझी सय माझ्या रानभर थय थयली, जिने संपले तरीही त्याची लय भिनली. आता मीच फक्त रान सारे आभाळवले, आता मीच फक्त रान सारे आभाळवले, मीच दव तुझ्या ओठावर नभाळ ओले, मीच दव तुझ्या ओठावर नभाळ ओले. Let us turn to Hindi and Urdu, and I presume more people would understand. हम कब से अपनी खता का जुर्माना ढूंढ रहे हैं, हम कब से अपनी खता का जुर्माना ढूंढ रहे हैं, ये रूह नशा है लेकिन पैमाना ढूंढ रहे हैं. वो पर्वत वो चट्टाने, वो पर्वत वो चट्टाने, वो तितली बादल झरने, वो झील चुलबुले मुझ में दीवाना ढूंढ रहे हैं. वो फुर्सत और वो रातें, वो फुर्सत और वो रातें, बेवक्त सिलासिल बातें, जाहिद बनकर जो खोया खो जाना ढूंढ रहे हैं, जाहिद बनकर जो खोया खो जाना ढूंढ रहे हैं. वो धुंध लपेटी राहें मिलने पर जो खो जाए, वो धुंध लपेटी राहें मिलने पर जो खो जाए, हम उनका सुलझा सुलझा उलझाना ढूंढ रहे हैं. देखो दहलीज के बाहर, देखो दहलीज के बाहर बेपर्दा हुस्न खड़ा है, देखो दहलीज के बाहर बेपर्दा हुस्न खड़ा है, लेकर प्यासा दिल ये क्यों मैखाना ढूंढ रहे हैं. हम खुद को वही पाएंगे जहां हम कोई शख्स नहीं है, हम खुद को वही पाएंगे जहां हम कोई शख्स नहीं है, क्यों इस बेजान शहर में याराना ढूंढ रहे हैं. काफिर को, काफिर मेरा तखल्लुस है, काफिर को बस एक फितरत की लत ने नबी बनाया, काफिर को बस एक फितरत की लत ने नबी बनाया. वो बंदे अब तक मुरसल का आना ढूंढ रहे हैं, मुरसल खुदा का भेजा हुआ प्रेषित पैगंबर. काफिर को बस एक फितरत की लत ने नबी बनाया, वो बंदे अब तक मुरसल का आना ढूंढ रहे हैं, वो बंदे अब तक मुरसल का आना ढूंढ रहे हैं. So, बेहर्फ थे अशआर तो चुप्पी का ही सरगम लिखा. So this is like the poet and music composer in me, which was almost never expressed. बेहर्फ थे अशआर तो चुप्पी का ही सरगम लिखा, बेहर्फ थे अशआर तो चुप्पी का ही सरगम लिखा, एहसास कर महकी हवा पर है किसी का गम लिखा. वो जो मोहब्बत जो लगन जो दर्द छलका उम्र भर, वो जो मोहब्बत जो लगन जो दर्द छलका उम्र भर, दरिया फलक चट्टान भर के लिखा मगर कुछ कम लिखा. वो जो मोहब्बत जो लगन जो दर्द छलका उम्र भर, दरिया फलक चट्टान भर के लिखा मगर कुछ कम लिखा. दिल ढूंढता फिरता रहा हमराज कोई हमनुमा, एक बेरुखी आई नजर, दिल ढूंढता फिरता रहा हमराज कोई हमनुमा, एक बेरुखी आई नजर, हमने उसी पे सनम लिखा. ये क्या हुआ इंसाफ, ये क्या हुआ इंसाफ जो अखलाक चारागर हुआ, ये क्या हुआ इंसाफ जो अखलाक चारागर हुआ, वो जख्म और गहरे हुए खंजर से जब मरहम लिखा, वो जख्म और गहरे हुए खंजर से जब मरहम लिखा। ईमान की जुल्मात एक दूजे से टकराती रही, ईमान की जुल्मात एक दूजे से टकराती रही, बस एक दरफ्शां कुफ्र था, अपना लिया और रहम लिखा। In the name of God, different faiths have been fighting with each other, killing each other. I thank my God that He gave me atheism, so I have no reason to fight. ईमान की जुल्मात एक दूजे से टकराती रही, बस एक दरफ्शां कुफ्र था, अपना लिया और रहम लिखा, अपना लिया और रहम लिखा. Now, if there is a minute, I'll talk about something which I did very rarely. I never looked at English as a poetic language. This is my limitation, not the limitation of English. The last time I was exposed to English poetry was my school textbook, which had many, many poems. Then I drifted to science, technology. I wrote a lot in science and technology, medicine and environment and wildlife and so on, but never poetry. But there was an occasion when someone asked me to explain what my Marathi poem actually meant in English. So I did this. The original lines are these. आता अशाच काचेचा माझा चेहरा घडेल, जाळ राहील अंतरी त्यांना उजेड दिसेल. आता अशाच काचेचा माझा चेहरा घडेल, जाळ राहील अंतरी त्यांना उजेड दिसेल. कुणा कळायचे नाही माझे एकाकी झुंजणे, कुणा कळायचे नाही माझे एकाकी झुंजणे. माझ्या चंद्राची काहिल त्यांना वाटेल चांदणे, माझ्या चंद्राची काहिल त्यांना वाटेल चांदणे. And this is what I wrote to explain that in English. Let a lantern glass be my white that keeps the heat and spreads the light. Let a lantern glass be my white that keeps the heat and spreads the light. Let no one ever come to know my invisible, lonely, eternal fight. Let no one ever come to know my invisible, lonely, eternal fight. Mine, the burning heart of the moon, theirs, the lovely moonlit night. Mine, the burning heart of the moon, theirs, the lovely moonlit night. Theirs, the lovely moonlit night. Thank you, Dhanyavad, Shukriya, and see you again.
Thank you very much, sir. Two readers for today have had to drop out because they were one is a copywriter and has been called away to work, which is a life I have led and I completely empathize with. And one has unfortunately taken rather ill. So they had shared their poems to be read out. But I think we will wait for another occasion when they can read them out in person. I don't think we will do justice to their work without them present. But the one more poet, which is Saima Afreen, had shared her work. She lives in a different time zone and cannot be awake at this hour. But she has very kindly recorded her poems and shared. So I will share that. So this is Saima Afreen. Is the recording audible?
No.
Not at all?
No, sir.
No. I thought you were asking whether you were audible. You're audible, but not the recording.
Okay, let me play it again. And
No, sir, I think you should share the computer audio as well.
sorry, was that audible?
No, I didn't hear it.
Oh, well. Because I put it in a PowerPoint hoping it would play. Let me figure it out.
Thank you so much for inviting me to read out this poetry.
Was it audible now?
Yes, I was able to hear that perfectly well.
All right.
Your heart is in your field fire, whispering elastic gold. It unbuttons itself, allowing its lips. Let it briefly penetrate roots to existence. The heart's young is sharp, beat, letting the strength, stitching softly. She's below. The colonies of cells murmur of their home before flaring one last time. They know the fireplaces of the constellations, cliffhangers, positions.
Was that audible?
Yes, very much.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Then it is passed into
I didn't find it very clear, Ramesh.
Oh. So shall I share it in the WhatsApp group instead?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, she did say that she tends to be a little soft when she is reciting. And I tried to magnify the volume and everything. But I guess it didn't work.
No, I think the WhatsApp idea is a good idea.
So I'll do that, I'll share it. Then with that, this session comes to an end.
Also, Ramesh, you may want to put it on the YouTube comments for the people who watched the video.
All right.
Not on the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, we'll do that. So, thank you so much for attending. Any comments, adverse or otherwise?
Just gratitude, Ramesh, for calling, for the invitation. Thank you so much.